In today's video, we continue on with our NHL offseason plan series. Today, we're looking at the number 10 ranked team from the regular season, the Carolina Hurricanes. The Hurricanes were another team that came close to making it to the Stanley Cup final, falling short in the conference final once again. What does this team need to do to get over the hump? What should we expect from them between the draft, trades, free agency, as well as their internal contracts? We'll discuss all that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're looking at the Carolina Hurricanes in our NHL offseason plan series. Now we are skipping a team right now because that's the Florida Panthers. Technically would have been next in this series. We did the Ottawa Senators, who are ranked 12th in the NHL. They were the last team I posted. I am going in order, but I don't do a team until their season is done because we can't talk about what comes next for them until we know how things ended. So the Panthers will go on the back burner until after the Stanley Cup final is over. I'll do the Panthers and the Oilers, likely the last two teams. So the Carolina Hurricanes are ranked number 10 in the NHL this past season. We're going to take a look at how things went, look at some key team and individual stats, take a look at how the team changed, look at their space for cap space, internal contracts, and what are the top questions and expectations we should expect from them between the draft, trades, free agency, player movement, etc. this summer. So let's take a look at how things finished for the Hurricanes this past year. They finished with a record of 47, 30, and 5 for 99 points. Another pretty solid regular season, obviously finishing in that number 2 spot in the Metro Division. Obviously, the Metro Division wasn't as strong this year as some people might have thought. Obviously, the Hurricanes ended up winning a couple of rounds in the playoffs, doing battle, of course, with the Devils, then followed by the Capitals, and then losing out to the Florida Panthers. Right now, they scored 266 goals this past year, 9th best in the NHL. That's a little bit of a drop from last year. They scored 279, so it's a 13-goal drop. But they only gave up 230 goals this year, which was 10th best, down from 216. So it's also 14 more goals. So overall, the Hurricanes in the regular season were not as good this year as they were last year. They dropped from 111 points to 99 points. That's a 12-point drop. Goals for were down. Goals against were up. So all in all, the team was not getting better. It actually took some steps back. The power play was not great, 18.7% for 25th best. The penalty kill, though, was the best in the NHL, number 1, 83.6. Looking at their goaltending this past year, Frederik Andersen missed a substantial chunk of the season. Again, he's battled a lot of injuries over his career. He ended up with a record of only 13, 8-1, but he had a 2.5 goals against and an 899 save percentage. So not great. His playoff numbers were obviously, better than that. And he obviously didn't have a great series against Florida, but leading into that, they were much better. Kochetkov, meanwhile, carried the load in the regular season with a 27, 16, and 3 record, a 2.6 goals against, and an 898 save percentage. So clearly, not really the strong suit of the team this year. Looking at their team leaders in goals and points, Sebastian Aho led the way with 74 points. Seth Jarvis, 67, was next. Svechnikov, though, what a drop-off. You go from Aho and Jarvis down to Svechnikov at 48 points. It's a big drop. Gostisbehere led the decor, 45 points. Taylor Hall ended up with 42. Now, of course, we saw some big swings with the Hurricanes this year, and, well, it was very interesting to watch, to put it that way. I mean, they pulled off a trade that nobody saw coming earlier before the deadline, midway point of the year, where they picked up Mikko Rantanen from the Avalanche for Marty Necas. I mean, what a spectacular trade. Everybody's like, oh my goodness. We all knew last year Necas was rumored to be moved. I don't think they could find a trade that would work or that he would sign with, because obviously he was a RFA. So if he wouldn't sign a contract with the team that was acquiring him, they're not going to do that. So it made things complicated. The trade never happened. He signed a 2-year deal with the Avalanche, with the Hurricanes, because he basically said, listen, that's the longest I'll do. I want to get to free agency, and we'll go from there. So they saw an opportunity to trade him to the Avalanche, and they got Rantanen. Okay, we've been saying for years, the Hurricanes, they need that big power forward, that big goal scorer, that game breaker. So when they get deep into playoffs and they need that big goal, they have another weapon and a guy who can do it. Well, Rantanen, we all thought was going to be that guy, but after a couple of weeks of being in the Hurricanes organization, we all found out that he didn't really want to be there. Obviously, his heart remained in Colorado. That's where he wanted to be. Was shocked and disappointed that they traded him. And Hurricanes wanted him to sign. I understand why. And then he's like, hold on. I don't know that I want to be here or not. Like, I just got here. I wasn't expecting this. I don't want to have to sign and decide the next 8 years of my life right now. So within a little while, he's like, I don't think it's that he completely hated Carolina, but he was up front with them and said, I just don't know that I want to commit to this. So he gave them some teams that he would go to and would sign a contract with. One was Toronto. There was a close trade. It almost brought Mitch Marner to Carolina, but he wouldn't waive his no-move clause, so that didn't happen. He ends up going to the Dallas Stars, signs an 8-year contract with them. So he goes to Dallas. They get Logan Stankoven and a bunch of picks. Okay, so they've recouped at least. Stankoven turned out to be a pretty good player for the Hurricanes, was pretty clutch in the playoffs as well, but he's not quite that superstar that they were hoping for. He's a good player. I think he'll continue to grow. He's got a lot of potential. I don't know that he's ever going to put up points like Mikko Rantanen, though. So, I mean, they got some other currency, obviously, that came with them in form of picks that they can use. But yeah, it's certainly, no offense to Stankoven, but when you think you're getting Rantanen and this is how it ends up, it was disappointing for them. But they did a good job targeting a player like Stankoven. Like I said, he might not be a superstar player that put the league on notice or anything just yet, but he fit really well. He was clutch for them. He got some really big goals in the playoffs, and I think they're quite happy to have him. So they can continue to use their cap space and the picks and everything they got from the Rantanen deal to hopefully maybe find that player. That's going to be on their to-do list again this offseason. They also picked up Taylor Hall partway through the year. Really liked that fit and extended him on a new contract as well. Now, going into the offseason, they've got $28 million in cap space, and they don't have a lot of holes in their lineup, if you will. They got 20 players theoretically under contract for next year. There's a few that are eligible to slide down to the minors without waivers, so they could open up more space if they want. They don't have any restricted free agent forwards, so I'll show you the list of what they have for internal business. RFAs, they have none. Everybody who's in that category of their career has a contract. On the unrestricted free agent side, they've got Jack Roslovic, Brent Burns, Dmitry Orlov, Eric Robertson, and Tyson Jost. Now, I suspect that from what we've heard, Orlov is not expected to be back. So he's gone by the sounds of it. I know Brent Burns has expressed interest to keep playing. I know Rod Brindamore had expressed that he'd love to have him back. So I don't know what that contract looks like at this stage of Burns' career. I think they'll at least talk about bringing him back. I don't think it's a guarantee, though. Jost, probably not back, would be my guess. I think they do like Robinson. Roslovic had a nice little season. I think it's going to boil down to what else they do. I think it's possible that Robinson or Roslovic return. Not a given, though. As far as players that could be signing a contract extension this summer, there's only a couple of younger players that are into that, and that would be Jackson Blake, who's eligible, and Logan Stankoven, who I said they just got from Dallas. They're going to need new contracts by the following year. They could do extensions this summer if the Hurricanes want to get ahead of things. But outside of that, what are the top questions facing the franchise? What are the expectations on, draft, free agency, trades, etc.? So first up, for me, before we even get to the draft, 48 hours after the Stanley Cup's awarded, or June 15th, whatever happens first. And at this point, the Stanley Cup's not coming out prior to that. So it's going to be 48 hours after the Cup is the first buyout window. To me, I really think they need to buy out Jesperi Kotkaniemi. Now, you can look at their cap space and say, they don't really need to do that. No, you're right. They don't have to. It's not like they absolutely need to find some money. But this is a contract that's aged horribly. They've got 5 years left at $4.82 million, and they have to buy him out, in my opinion, while he's young enough that it's considered a 1/3 buyout. If you don't know how buyouts work, basically, depending on the player's age and experience level, it can either be 2/3 of the money that they have to pay out over twice the period of time, or 1/3 of the money over twice the period of time. So essentially, when they're in under 7 years experience, so they're still in their RFA years, then it's 1/3. If they're older than that or more experienced, then it's 2/3. So 1/3 versus 2/3 is a big, big difference. Kotkaniemi would be a huge savings. They would get out of the $4.8 million that he counts for on the cap in those next 5 years. Most of those years, they're going to save well over, I think it was well over $3 million, $3+ million. It was, their cap hit was going to be super low. Now, they would end up having him on the cap for a long time because it's twice the period of time. So we're talking about 10 years instead of 5. But those additional 5 years would be really small amounts. The cap is going to be substantially higher than that in 5 years. It really wouldn't be a big deal. I think they need to create the roster spot and to get rid of this contract before it gets more expensive to buy out later. So to me, that is a no-brainer. You have to move on from Kotkaniemi and admit failure on that transaction. As far as their decor goes, like I said, you have to have the question answered. Are your veteran guys that are UFAs coming back? Burns and Orlov? I'm pretty sure, but from what we've heard, we already know the answer on Orlov is no. The Burns question has not been answered. I would think maybe, obviously at his age, you have to think that it's going to be a cheaper contract, a smaller role, and maybe it's a case of maybe he doesn't even play every day. Maybe he's a number 7 that can be spot duty. Who knows? But I think there's a role for him somewhere. They have to figure out if they're doing that or not, and I don't know the answer here just yet. Obviously, they got to figure out goaltending. They don't have a lot of money tied up into the goaltending spot between they got Anderson for $2.75 million. Kochetkov is only $2 million. Is it possible that they want to stabilize that tandem with a more experienced vet? Freddie Anderson, they keep bringing him back, and he keeps missing time. But he's been good, right? Like, I can understand why they're reluctant to move away from him. But I don't think he's going anywhere. But would they consider, if they had the opportunity to trade Kochetkov for another veteran who's got good experience, that might be able to come in and stabilize things to be maybe form a stronger tandem with Freddie Anderson, is that something they would look at? I mean, Kochetkov had a chance to really run with things this year and had a sub-900 save percentage. I like him as a goalie, but when you have the team like the Hurricanes in front of you, who typically defends pretty well, and now I know their decor wasn't quite as good this year as years past, but a team that's a stronger defending team, and you have a sub-900 save percentage, that, I don't know, I think it could be better. You don't typically win cups with goaltenders that have save percentages that low. So it's pretty unheard of. So, would they make a trade? I do wonder. I know guys like John Gibson are available. Guys like Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen might be available. Thatcher Demko out of Vancouver might be available. Now, Demko's got an injury history too. So does Gibson. So, you're taking on some risks too, but you're also getting more experience and higher level of play. So, could they make a move like that? I do. I'm not sure how likely it is. It might not be super likely, but I do think they need to look at it for sure. I would also, if you're looking at trade pieces on your team, if they're going to need to bring in that star player that they're looking for, and I don't know who that player is going to be, I do think that when it comes to free agency, they're definitely expected to take a run at Mitch Marner. Now, there's a different opinions out there if they want Marner or they don't. Because there was different times when Marner has rejected to go to Carolina. Now, there's also rumored of a 3-team deal between the Hurricanes, the Leafs, and Vegas. And now, some say that the reason the Golden Knights were involved is that the Hurricanes were more interested in flipping Marner. So that, trying to get assets, but maybe he wasn't a prime target. I don't know about that. It's hard to say what's true and what's not. But it is reported by many NHL high-level insiders that they are expected to take a big run at Marner. So he could turn out to be their guy. I don't know that he wants to go there, so I'm not sure that they're going to be successful. But they're going to try, is the expectation. So I'm not sure. I think they're more likely, if they're going to get it done, they're going to have to get it done via trade. And if they're going to have to get it done via trade, my opinion, I do wonder if it's time to consider trading Andrei Svechnikov. That's just and maybe that's a bold take on my part. I'm not sure how Hurricanes fans feel about that. I just looking at what he was drafted as and and I know he's not old, so maybe he still explodes. I just haven't seen the production out of him like we thought we would by now. When he was drafted, there was talk he could be a 40, 50 goal scorer consistently, and that he hasn't really been there. So, you got to be careful with younger players. You don't want to give up too soon. But if it's going to bring you in a higher level player, like a Rantanen that they tried to do last time, would they consider that? I don't know. From a cap perspective, they don't need to, but, to get value, you got to give value. I do wonder. But I'm not sure who they would target to be that player to come in. But I wonder if he could be used in a trade if they feel like they're upgrading to a higher, more consistent goal scorer. But again, that's hard to find, hard to do, and by no means a given that they can figure that out. But I think they will try, and I do wonder if he's potentially involved. That's just my gut feeling. At the draft, of course, they have a low pick, 29th. Could they go for a player like Cameron Schmidt? He's expected to go near the end of the first round, 40 goal scorer for the Western Hockey League. That might be a player to watch. Otherwise, could they package that first rounder to try to find this star player that they're looking for? They have means to do something substantial in this the summer of the draft or in free agency. I'd be curious to see what they do. They seem to be able to get to the conference final, but they're still a major step below the Panthers, which is why they haven't been able to get over that hump. And to be fair, I don't know that the Metro teams are as good as many of the Atlantic teams. And even if a different team makes it to the conference final out of the Atlantic next year, are teams like Carolina, Washington, New Jersey, are they going to be able to get past them? I honestly am not so sure. I think they really need to beef up. I think they got another whole level to get to, and it's not going to be easy to do. But let me know what you think in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.